Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another episode of Shift Break. Today's episode of Shift Break is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee, one of the most revolutionary pieces of equipment to come out in a long time in the coffee world because its SCA award-winning technology gives us unprecedented control over a vast array of flavors in our coffee, extracting things that you didn't even think possible, and ultimately giving you control over how your coffee is expressed. I mean, it really upgrades batch brew coffee like no other piece of equipment I have seen, and it is catching on rapidly around the world. Go to groundcontrol.coffee to find out more about the Cyclops Brewer. It not only makes amazing batch brew coffee, but also tea, batched iced lattes, batched cold brew. It's beautiful to look at, easy to train your staff on. So if you're looking to upgrade your quality, your versatility, and just get on the next level with your coffee program, then I highly suggest you get a Ground Control Cyclops Brewer for your store. Again, to find out more information, go visit them at groundcontrol.coffee. Today's episode is also brought to you by La Marzocco. It's been making espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927, and today the tradition of innovation and quality and dependability is going as strong and stronger than ever. I mean, La Marzocco is part of the fabric of specialty coffee because of trust. Machines like the KB90 machine with the straight-in locking portafilters for ergonomics, the auto flush for increased cleanliness, built-in scales for consistency. That's just one example of many machines that La Marzocco offers to help your coffee business thrive. And they are available to help you get the right machine for your shop. All you need to do is reach out to one of their salespeople by emailing info@lamarzocousa.com. I would encourage you to reach out to them and also check out their website, lamarzocousa.com. Okay, everyone. Well, today I am thankful to have you along for this shift break because we are going to talk a little bit more about money. And I say more because the latest episode, a full episode of Keys to the Shop on Tuesday, featured our guest Larry Chase talking about open book management. And so today I wanted to kind of keep with the theme of the financials and talk a little bit about a mentality regarding money and the meaning of money in your coffee shop. There have been several times on the show where we have talked about data and metrics, and of course I think it's really great to have a well-rounded view of money's role in your business. First of all, we have to talk about how money and the metrics we use are just tools. They're good tools. They let us know that the business is either in danger or is alive. But just like instruments that people use to tell you if you are in danger or alive, like if you can get a pulse, we know that you're there. And it doesn't really tell us the quality of your life, though. So you could be alive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of your life is great. So there's a limit to how much metrics can give you in terms of feedback on how you're doing. It's a snapshot in time, and it adds to the bigger picture of the business. And that bigger picture is made up partly of the metrics and a lot of actually being there, observing, and being a part of the whole business. The problem is that we tend to retreat into the office, and we tend to put our faith in the metrics' ability to tell us all we need to know. And because we don't have face-to-face context, we end up making decisions in a vacuum. So we might see that sales are down in a particular area, but we don't really connect the reason for that being there's a problem on the bar with a piece of equipment. We might incorrectly assume that it has to do with sales training. And so we start going down the wrong path because we were just making decisions in that vacuum of trying to get the metrics to just tell us everything. It's almost as if we are on a quest to avoid the cafe in some ways. And I've been there. It's much easier to sit behind a computer and look at the stats and try to arrange them in such a way that it gives you some insight that you might just be able to get by being there. So the money and the metrics, when used improperly like this, becomes kind of an enemy to employees because now their leaders are rendered rather irrelevant in a sense. It makes leaders basically tone deaf to the needs and the life of the business. Another problem with money is that it's often an uncomfortable thing to talk about, mostly because we don't talk about it, We need to bring money and metrics out of the shadows and into the conversation to remove doubt and to build trust and strengthen resolve as a team and clear up people's perspective of leadership, because a lot of people assume that leadership is basically because a lot of people assume that leaders are hiding something. And if you really are hiding something, but not for a good reason, people are going to think it's for very nefarious reasons, So a good mindset to have here to avoid some of these problems that come from kind of a myopic view of money and metrics and something that isolates them to a shadowy world is to be connected to your business in more ways than just, behind a computer screen. Actually be out there. Schedule time to be an observer of what you have created and are in charge of. It's easy to just work on the urgent things in the business and ignore everything else. And we often ignore those things to our peril. We get tunnel vision. So I would say spend a lot of time walking the floor, observing the bar, interacting with the business, and see what's happening. And take it openly. Ask honest questions and think about things without critique when they're told to you, when people give you feedback. This builds a lot of trust with people because they see you being in the business and curious about things that are going on. So when you do make decisions, it's going to be taken a lot better than if you're just kind of tapping away on the keyboards and then making decisions solely from that perspective. Also, it's good for you to connect the metrics that you want your managers to reach, like labor, cost of goods, kind of growth that you want to see year over year in the coffee shop. You've got to connect these things to the greater meaning of the company and the values. A really easy one would be if we can keep these numbers in line, that means we have more money available to add another person onto a shift where it's desperately needed. There's a lot of ways that you can connect the pursuit of certain metrics to the realities that are meaningful to the staff and managers and so forth. So connecting common metrics with greater implications for the business is really critical. And then finally, I think getting context before you decide to act is always appropriate. So yes, you have data, you've got a lot of research from the back office of Square or your POS system. You have to get context, though, and be curious and ask around what's happening. What do you think's the cause of that? Collect that information and make an informed and reasoned decision. Know the why, not just the what. Knowing the what, and only that, creates this assumption, and we can't run businesses based on assumption. In fact, if we have done that, where we say, well, sales are down, and we just immediately go to the reason why is because of this, not only are we missing an opportunity to improve, but we're reinforcing the habit of assumption and unfairly putting pressure on the wrong part of the business. And then it's really hard to walk it back because it's a pride issue. It's hard for us to admit that we did that. It makes us look foolish in a sense, So it's better to not go down that road too far. Get context and know the why behind the what, and your decisions are going to be a lot better. So our mindset on metrics has to be that they are useful tools to give us the what, and we need to be curious enough to pursue the why, and then see those numbers potentially change, and make sure that the numbers are not just something that's isolated. These metrics are not just another part of the business that has nothing to do with your values. In order to achieve your values, you need to make these numbers work. It's an imperative, right? And so involving everybody in that process, I think, is a very wise idea. Again, if you haven't listened to episode 311 with Larry Chase talking about open book management, then I highly encourage you to do that. And I'll also link to other episodes. There's a couple of them specifically about data and metrics in your shop. Thanks, everybody, for joining me, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, From Keys to the Shop.